Sonic Prime has finally premiered, and it has familiar faces as well as alternate versions of them. Some of them are good, some are pretty evil, and others fall somewhere in the middle. Today, we'll be analyzing these characters to see where they fall on the morality spectrum. I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and this is Sonic Prime Season 1 characters, good to evil. Now, a couple quick points to make before we begin. We'll only focus on characters that played a prominent role in the story thus far, and we'll also treat each alternate version of a character as their own character. And lastly, spoilers ahead. As usual, we'll be starting with the most noble character and working our way down to the most evil. The characters in this first category are the good. Receiving the gold medal of good, to no surprise, is our main hero himself, Sonic. While it's true he could have prevented most of what happened in the show if he listened to his friends in the first episode, he still had good intentions. Sonic traverses to many worlds and encounters various versions of the people he knows.
We're gonna fix it, because we got the whole band back together.
While it takes him a little while to start comprehending what's going on, he doesn't wait around and tries to help out whoever he meets. In New York City, he helps the rebels fight the Chaos Council, helps all the people he meets in the forest world reconcile with each other, and assists the pirate versions of his friends as well. This is all done with little to no hesitation. Even when he ends up causing any problems in the story, he speeds back into action to try to fix it. Taking the silver medal of good will actually be a group. Sonic's friends, Amy, Tails, Knuckles, and Rouge. These guys don't have a lot of screen time, but they make the most of what they have. In the opening of the season, they're already seen trying to fight off Eggman, stopping his latest plan. As the season progresses, we get more and more pieces of the events that happened leading up to the moment the Paradox Prism was shattered. Almost every moment has them working together or figuring out a plan as they approach their next Eggman encounter. Tails gets a couple of extra points here, despite Tails' warning not to attack the robot on the edge of the cliff. Sonic does anyways, leading to Eggman getting what he wants. Tails is obviously annoyed by this as he initially won't look at Sonic when he first walks into his shop. After Sonic apologizes though, Tails quickly forgives him. It may not seem that heroic at face value, but it can take a lot to do that sometimes, so good for him. Taking the bronze medal of good are both Renegade Knux and Rebel Rouge. These are the ones that Sonic meets after winding up in New York City. The scenario they're in is quite similar to Sonic Forces, in that they're holed up in a secret location as they try to lead a rebellion against the forces of Eggman, or Eggmen in this case. They want to work with their team to take down the city and restore the forest to what it once was, freeing all of the citizens. The citizens are miserable, but they get a glimpse of hope when the robots shut down briefly. They just need a beacon of hope to keep fighting, and that can be found in Renegade Knux and Rebel Rouge. Following next on this wave of heroes are the Pirate Crew, consisting of Sails, Baton, Catfish, and Black Rose. If you're looking for a loyal pirate crew, these guys have you covered. No matter what happens, they always follow their captain, even when they want to do things that they're visibly reluctant towards doing. Such as sing a shanty, they still take part. After Sonic arrives, they do whatever they can to help him. Once they see Sonic confronting the old crew, they get the courage needed to fight alongside him. When Rusty Rose shows up, they stand their ground as best they can, regardless of the danger involved, in order to help Sonic. They may not have their own personal goals exactly, but their drive to help others is really a thing to take note of. Returning back to original versions of characters, our next entry is Big the Cat. Big is in a similar boat to the other original heroes since he also doesn't get a ton of screen time. However, unlike the others, he doesn't take nearly as big of an advantage of that. Most of the time, he's just sitting around, possibly fishing as well. This version of Big doesn't really do much else. He does at least cheerfully forgive Sonic after the latter runs into him. We have no doubt that Big is a good guy, so hopefully an eventual Season 2 will give him something more to do. Our final character in the category of good is the ultimate life form, Shadow the Hedgehog. For the most part, Shadow could be considered to be doing the wrong thing for the right reasons. The only interactions he really has with anyone are with Sonic, and it's mostly them fighting each other. Being rivals, it's implied that they've duked it out many times before. The season even ends with another of their fights about to start, as Sonic moves fast enough to go through the Shadowverse. Shadow intercepts it, tells him their home is gone, and punches Sonic one more time. Shadow may have been trying to figure out the situation and looking to keep it from from getting worse. But if he worked with Sonic more, as opposed to fighting him whenever they came face to face, he easily could have come across as more heroic. With the good characters wrapped up, we now move into more neutral territory. These characters fall in the gray area. Our first entry in this category is Mangy Tails. This version of Tails is found in the forest world that Sonic travels to. Like with the other characters he's with, Mangy Tails does help Sonic through the forest area, especially after he agrees to go up against the monster on the forest floor. However, he does contribute a bit to the problem that led to this monster being the way they were. What keeps him from going any lower is his primitive nature. He doesn't appear to be able to think at the same level as others, so he would have a tougher time realizing that what he's doing is wrong. Next up are the rest of Mangy Tails' friends: Prim Rouge, Hangry Cat, and Gnarly Knuckles. These guys are in a very similar boat to Mangy Tails in terms of how they help Sonic since he helps them, along with how they contribute to what happens with the monster. What puts them a step lower is that they're able to think on a more advanced level. If they stopped for a second to realize what they were doing and not act as greedy as they had, the conflict may have never happened. Even after the conflict does start, they don't even attempt to try and fix it. They just live in fear, constantly calling the other character the monster, when they had almost as much to do with the problem as the monster themselves. With Sonic's help, they do eventually resolve the matter, but it doesn't hide the fact that much of what happened could have easily been prevented by them. Now it's time to talk about the monster themselves, that being Thorn Rose. Thorn Rose is the Forest World's version of Amy. She has just as much to do with the problems faced in that story arc as the others, and possibly a little more. While she was understandably upset that the rest were taking more from the forest than they were giving back, what she ends up doing in response to this was not helpful towards solving the matter. She decided that the best thing to do at that point was to knock the others away with her hammer, forcing them to live in the treetops. At the same time, she kept looking to let the forest grow, keeping anyone from going down there again. She eventually succeeds in this, which only leads to more problems. She claimed to be helping the forest, but keeping the forest floor from having any natural sunlight only made it worse. She found this out when Sonic ripped a hole through the tree, causing sunlight to pour down on another tree that was beginning to wilt.
All I ever wanted was to protect the green.
She also contributes towards resolving the matter after this, but like with the other characters, she could have prevented the bigger issues by just trying a bit harder to talk it out more. At the very least, acting so aggressively and smacking everyone away on the regular with a big hammer puts her a step down from the others. Going from one version of Amy to another, we now get to Rusty Rose. This is a mostly robotic version of Amy found in New York City. She is mostly seen helping out the Chaos Council, thus contributing towards the misery of this dystopian city. What helps her stay out of the evil category comes when she is briefly reprogrammed. During this time, she is helping out the heroes and fighting off the Council's robots. She does revert back to her former self, but this brief segment helps her quite a bit.
Time for you to go down with your ship.
This tells us that she'll do whatever she is programmed to do, regardless of whether it's good or bad. She also gets some points of good after she decides to call off the attack on the pirate crew after seeing Black Rose. If Nine, or anybody else for that matter, can find a more permanent way to keep Rusty Rose from doing bad things again in later seasons, she might end up being a hero at some point. We now return to the world of the pirates as we talk about Knuckles the Dread. Every pirate crew needs a captain, and this version of Knuckles takes that role. Through his backstory, we see that he hasn't exactly been the best captain ever. While he did have a loyal crew at first, they left him after they saw that they meant nothing to him when compared to the treasure he was after. He does seem to do better later with the crew we're more familiar with, but that only goes so far. He does at least act as though he cares for them throughout most of the story. He loses a few points near the end though. Once they pursue the treasure again, Knuckles the Dread pretty much reverts back to his former self and throws any concern he really has for his crew overboard the closer he gets to that treasure. Once he has his hands on the treasure, that's all he can think about. Hopefully, future seasons give him a chance to redeem himself a little bit. Side note, one of the members of the old crew is voiced by none other than YouTuber Jacksepticeye.
Nothing beats sticking it to our old captain.
Our final version of Tails we'll discuss is also the final entry in the gray area, and he calls himself Nine. Throughout his backstory, we find out that Nine mostly keeps to himself because of the way he has has been treated by others. That's certainly understandable. However, this also leads him to act a bit selfishly. After Sonic touches the shard and vanishes, 9 takes it with him and uses it to transport himself to a world where no one else resides, leaving the others behind to continue the rebellion without him. It was only due to the persuasion from Sonic that led him to come back and help, though he still seemed a bit hesitant about it.
When this is over, I'm going home and never looking back.
By the end, he's been captured by the Chaos Council, so he's still in New York City. Hopefully he'll learn to work well with others more in some way. With our gray area complete, we now enter the dark side. These characters are the bad and the evil. Our first of 2 entries in this category is the one and only Dr. Eggman. Like with most of the original versions of our heroes, Eggman doesn't get a lot of time to shine, but when he's there, he is causing trouble. He's once again on a quest to find an item of seemingly limitless power, which is the Paradox Prism in this case. He's able to fool Sonic into destroying one of his robots, which helps blow up the area of the mountain where the prism is.
Thank you for the earthquake, Sonic.
Once the prism breaks, we don't see much of him. However, just the fact that he fights the good guys, looks for another source of power to control the world with, and doesn't have any redeeming qualities to balance things out, shows that he doesn't intend to do any good anytime soon. And finally, we've reached the baddest of the bad. And we actually have to break this gold medal of evil into 5 pieces, because they go to each member of the Chaos Council. The group consists of Mr. Dr. Eggman, Mr. Dunnit, Mr. Deep, Dr. Don't, and Dr. Babble. You'll notice very quickly by both their names and appearances that these are all different versions of Dr. Eggman. While we don't know yet how or why 5 different versions of him are in one place, just the fact that they're all based on Eggman means bad news. They run that dystopian city of New York. Unlike our Eggman, who is still trying to take over the world in his overarching story, these Eggmen pretty much already have. Everyone but them appears to be miserable, and they're always on a quest for more power.
Imagine what we could do with 2 shards!
Once they find out more about the shards and their capabilities, they steal 9's tech and use it to gain access to other worlds. Not only does this mean they can control their own world, they now have an opportunity to do so to multiple other worlds. Considering the residents of New York City alone all seem to be devastated and afraid to step out of line even slightly, we can only imagine how bad the Chaos Council would make life for so many other people. But let us know in the comments section if you agree, and tell us who your favorite Sonic Prime character is. Make sure to hit that notification bell and binge our other videos. But most importantly, stay wicked.